Hi, I'm Stacie Rosenzweig. I am a shareholder at Halling Cayo in Milwaukee, and I practice a variety of law. Relevant here, I practice legal ethics, professional responsibility, licensing, also election and political law, employment law, general litigation, weird stuff that comes my way. This morning, Aviva Kaiser from the State Bar and I presented a rather lengthy presentation about professional identity. The American Bar Association has recently adopted standards for law schools that include development of professional identity in coursework. And we use that as a jumping off point to talk about everything from a thick or thin professional identity, meaning do you take your personal values and morals and so forth into your job, or is your job more just a transactional, you give your clients good service regardless of what their cause is. And we spoke about civility, spoke about online presence, blogging, email marketing. It was a wide-ranging, really fun discussion. All right, well, young lawyers in their first few years of practice face a variety of scenarios that they've never seen before. Law school can't prepare you for everything and doesn't prepare you for everything. One of the things I see a lot of is young lawyers just not sure of what they don't know. It's easy to get in over your head. You know, the duty of competence, SCR 21.1, applies from day one. And sometimes if you're working with a senior lawyer who isn't exactly sure of what you know or what you don't know, you have this instinct to want to, help, or you want to do the work without asking too many questions or without seeming like you don't know what you're doing. And that's not always the right call. Sometimes you do have to just admit, like, this is unfamiliar to me. I've given it a little bit of research, I've done a little thought, and I'm stuck. That's okay. That's, in fact, the duty of competency does require you to bring in help or know your limits. Other things I see, particularly with young lawyers who they go solo right away or very quickly into their careers, and they don't have business experience. Because the practice of law, when you're in a firm, is also the business of law. But there's some add-ons, like the trust accounting, things like that you don't see in another business. And sometimes when you're trying to start up a business, you're working many, many hours a week. And you're working many hours a week on things that are not client services, that are not research, writing, court work, discovery, whatever. You're working on accounting, you're working on getting your website up, you're working on some of the things that are required by the Supreme Court rules, but also just the things that get you clients and help you make money. And finding time for all of that and it's rough. And often solo practitioners at all points in their careers sometimes find themselves going, all right, well, I can reconcile the trust account next week. I've got a trial to prepare for this week. And the problem is that next week they've got a motion hearing to prepare for, and the following week they've got a new client with a big emergency, and it just gets put off and put off and put off to the point that it becomes very hard or impossible to do that administrative stuff that the Supreme Court rules and just running a good business require. But that's something that I think newer lawyers are particularly prone to, just simply because they haven't been in the business long enough to know what they need to do and to be able to handle it or know who to talk to about perhaps finding a good trust accountant, things like that. All right, young lawyers, new lawyers can turn to a variety of resources to find what they need to do and to get help. The State Bar has a wide range of resources that are included in your membership. The Practice 411 program, the practice management program that Chris Shattuck runs, I think that's excellent because it is a confidential program. You can call and say, hey, I'm way over my head on this trust accounting, what do I do? There is also a trust accounting school offered yearly in September, I want to say, by the Office of Lawyer Regulation, and they bring in the trust account manager and people from the bar and all that. That's helpful on that front. The State Bar has an ethics hotline. Tim Pierce and Aviva Kaiser staff that, and you can get confidential ethics advice about anything ranging from a conflict of interest to a fee agreements, things like that. If you're in over your head emotionally and mentally, and that's something that I do see lawyers at all points in practice do struggle with mental health, substance use, work-life balance, the normal stresses of life while trying to manage a busy practice. It adds up. The Wisconsin Lawyers Assistance Program, WISLAP, is a very good resource. They can provide referrals, they can provide some emergency counseling, they can provide peer support, matching you with somebody who's been through what you're going through or something similar. Organizations like the Young Lawyers Division are also very helpful. I know that many of these bar sections and also local affinity bars have listservs or email lists where you can communicate with other people who are at the same or similar stage in their careers as you are, and just get peer support there, or even just throw it out to the, hey, does anyone know a good website service? Just basic questions, ranging from basic questions like that to more detailed, involved questions that maybe need to be answered off list but can be posed to the list. I think Wisconsin lawyers, on balance, are happy to help. So if you know a lawyer who you respect, you look up to, even if they're not in your practice area, even if they're 30 years older than you are, or even if they're 10 years younger, talk to them, reach out, offer, let's go for coffee. You can find both business resources and support from your peers. I got into ethics and professional responsibility work by, I think, the same way that many newer lawyers get into certain lines of work. They go to work for a law firm that is within commuting distance of their house and pays money and does that work. And that's what happened. I had, my first job out of law school ended, and I had to figure out what to do. And I ended up applying and getting a job at a smaller firm nearby that, in part, the partner I worked for did OLR grievance work and some malpractice defense. And I discovered, of everything that I was doing, because I did a variety of work there, banking, contracts, zoning, like everything. It's like, I really like this stuff. It's really neat. And when I moved over to my current firm, which also had an existing practice there, one of the things I said in my interview was like, yeah, I do have OLR and legal malpractice experience, and I'd like to do more of it here, even though this job, I've been recruited primarily for another area of law. I'd like to do this too. And I think some of my now colleagues were a little bit like, really, you like this stuff? It's so dense and nerdy, but that's me. I am a nerdy person. And so it was a natural fit. But like so many other people, I just fell into it and ended up running with it. Well, I do. I have a legal ethics blog. It's called Ethicking, or ethicking.com is the URL. And it is a blog that's devoted to legal ethics, law practice, and sometimes the random thoughts related to those areas that come my way. I've been a writer since I could pick up a pen. I was writing short stories about a feminist Easter bunny when I was in first grade. So this is a natural and I've blogged before about other things, politics, and this is a natural outgrowth of everything else I do, because I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of, I'm both I think useful, productive ones and some critical ones and just some random weird ones. And yelling on social media was only getting me so far with that. So I decided, you know what, I'd like to put this into something more concrete. And the cool thing about the firm that I work with and also my blog itself is that I can kind of be myself there. It's not a search engine optimized, legalistic, this is what the rule says and this is how to interpret it Q&A. I do have some Q&A, but there is a little bit of color there, a little bit of flair. I've seen other people writing about my blog in like aggregator articles, and they say it's a conversational, friendly tone, cracking jokes, because I do take my work very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously all that often. So I think it's a good mix of everything. It is a marketing tool, just like any online presence is a marketing tool. And it's also, it's something I enjoy. So that's what I get out of it. My one tip, at least as of today, as I stand here today, this may change tomorrow, but right now, I think the one tip I would say is to have a mistake-positive culture. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make all sorts of mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes that right now, as you're watching this, you don't even know that type of mistake existed, but you're gonna make it at some point. Because you as a lawyer, you're a human being, and human beings are walking, talking, breathing, mistake-generating machines. They happen. In a mistake-positive culture, you're encouraged to own your mistakes, acknowledge your mistakes, talk to others about them, and that will help you fix what can be fixed. You can talk to a senior colleague about, hey, I think I got this case holding wrong and it's included in a brief. What am I supposed to do? If something went really wrong, You may need to talk to your malpractice carrier and put them on notice. In a mistake negative culture, it's incentivized that you suppress that and you try to fix it yourself when you may not know how, or you just hide it and hope that nothing goes wrong. Because everybody's going to make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes will lead to grievances or malpractice claims. I can't promise that they won't. But in many cases, how you address the mistake, whether you can fix it if it can be fixed, or you acknowledge to your client, hey, look, this went wrong and I'm sorry, and I'm not sure that it can be fixed. You may want to talk to other counsel about what to do. All of those things can help mitigate a grievance. They can also, I think, help you sleep at night. So that would be my one tip at this point.